And she's a woman of simple needs, so it seemed. Now, I'm very glad I got warning in my ear that they were fading us up because we were both singing there.
Singing and dancing in the
She wants for Christmas is you. Well, not quite. In fact, it turns out she wanted to be crowned the Queen of Christmas. Apparently, she'd applied to America's Patent and Trademark Office for the right to claim sole ownership of the title. Well, the president of Octave TV, Andrew Eborn, is a copyright lawyer, and he's with us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and I bet you weren't the only ones bopping away to that.
I'm glad you couldn't see us. Right, talk us through exactly what Mariah Carey was trying to do.
Well, as you say, that's not the only thing that Mariah wanted for Christmas. She wanted to gain the crown of Queen of Christmas. So she applied last year for a trademark, and a very wide-ranging trademark covering music and clothing and perfumes and so on and so forth. But what happened is there were a number of people who popped out of the woodwork and said, well, hang about, you can't be the only Queen of Christmas. And one of those was somebody called Elizabeth Chan. And Elizabeth, basically, she's a New Yorker, and she exclusively writes and performs Christmas music. And every year since 2011, she has issued a Christmas album. So she basically put in what's called an opposition to Mariah's application. And the US Patent and Trademark Office, they basically give you a chance to respond to that opposition. But for whatever reason, Mariah and her company, Lotion LLC, decided not to respond to the opposition. So she basically lost it by default, which is a strange way to go, really.
That's really odd. If you apply to have to get a trademark, then not to defend your application to go forward does seem a bit odd. Does that mean that's the end of it now? Can anybody else call himself the Queen of Christmas?
And that's the interesting thing.
I'd like to be the Queen of Christmas, even though I've never had a Christmas song.
I think we should have Queens of Christmas all around the world. I love that principle.
Multiple Queens of Christmas.
But interestingly, what it is, Elizabeth Chan was not the only one who was contesting the crown, because there's also Darlene Love, who's a wonderful performer. She's now 81, the wonderful age of 81. And she used to sing Christmas, Baby, Come Home. And that was one in 1963. Even before, so see, she was the Queen of Christmas even before Mariah Carey rose to fame. And in fact, it was David Letterman who officially declared Darlene Love to be Queen of Christmas 29 years ago. And what I loved about Darlene Love, many things to love about her, apart from her wonderful voice, is she said basically, if Mariah's got a problem, she can speak to David, i.e. Letterman, or my lawyer. So she was contending that as well.
I can see where this is going. If Darlene was the Queen of Christmas long before Mariah Carey was born, then that might make Mariah the Princess of Christmas, although that doesn't have the alliteration that she might want. What happens now to all of this?
Well, what happens now, it is interesting because basically the way the trademarks work, they do give you exclusive rights to use a particular name or a mark on certain goods or services. And when you're applying for your trademark, you need to make sure that those relevant classes. So, for example, in the UK, we have with the Trademark Registry, there are 45 classes, and you get all sorts of different goods. Goods are basically in classes 1 to 34, from soaps to perfume to music and clothing. So you need to make sure that those applications are right. And it can also apply to services. So if you're talking about putting on concerts or so on and so forth, you can apply for trademarks there. The interesting thing, and I always say I'm adamant about getting the rights right. And so many people get it wrong. So it's sensible to sort of get advice and make sure you know what you're doing. So, for example, Usain Bolt very recently has applied to trademark his signature pose. That wonderful one where he's pointing with one hand to the other and pointing up in the air for his victory.
I'd like to see him come after every primary school child that does that at the end of the race.
Well, interesting. It's interesting that you say that, but he's actually wants to put it on clothing. So you might remember the wonderful Michael Jordan and the iconic pose that he has, which is all over Nike clothes and so on and so forth, which is worth several $1 billion in terms of revenue for Nike as a brand. And also Mo Farah, the Mo, his wonderful Claire Balding did, he managed successfully to get a trademark for that. So it all depends on the classes.
Just very quickly, can Mariah apply again, or could she change it slightly and just have a crown with tinsel or something? Can she go for it again?
Absolutely. The answer is yes to both of those. She can apply again, do it properly, have a look. I'll be delighted to help. In fact, my phone's probably already ringing. That'll be Mariah on the other side. And all she wants for Christmas is Andrew Eborn to sort her out, and I'll help her.
Oh, that's a fabulous piece of marketing. And I can guarantee that Mariah Carey will, of course, be listening to Good Morning Scotland at 7:20 in the morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew Eborn. Did you know that she didn't actually, that song didn't, All I Want for Christmas You didn't make it to #1 in the UK charts until 2020.
That's the kind of
26 years it's been on the go, and it wasn't #1 until a couple of years ago.
That's the kind of fact that people remember. What you could say is pretty useless. That's what we're talking
I'm going
about.
to keep that one in my head for a pub quiz.
We're talking about